Right, members, I'm about to start the meeting. I haven't got the gavel tonight. Apologies for the delay in the meeting. So I'll go straight into the business. Can I welcome everyone tonight, the members of the Planning Committee and members of the public to the meeting. Therefore, can I introduce the top table? There's myself, I'm chairman of the committee, and I'm Councillor Bob Cope. To my right is
Councillor Robert Duncan, Vice Chair.
Sam Northam, Staffs County Council, Highways.
Hardik Sharma, Solicitor.
Kelly Harris, Lead Planning Manager.
Michael Brown, Assistant Team Manager for Strategic Projects.
Tom Nutt, Assistant Team Manager, Development Management.
Amanda Willis, Technical Support Team.
Thank you, everyone. Can I also remind everyone that this meeting is being recorded? So we move straight to the agenda, and that's item 1, the minutes. Has everybody had the opportunity for the minutes? Councillor Steele.
Mr. Chairman, item 25/00431. I asked for my vote against to be recorded, and it isn't. Thank you.
Yeah, we'll accordingly amend that. Thank you. So has everybody else had that opportunity to look at the minutes? All those in favour, please say aye. Thank you. So we're now item 2, which is apologies. I've got 2 apologies. Councillor Val Chapman, Councillor Meg Barrow. Are there any more apologies from the floor? Any apologies from anywhere? No. Okay. Item 3 is declarations of interest. Any declarations of interest, please? No. So we proceed straight to the items on the agenda. There are 2 of them, the determination of the planning applications. So the first one is 23/01073/OU2M, and it's the land to the south of Pendyford Mill Lane, Bilbrook, west of Bilbrook Mill. We had got a speaker, but before we do that, can I hand over to who's dealing with Mike? Mike, can you introduce the application, please? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, all. So if we go through the photographs of the site first, we have top left. We'll work from top left to bottom right as we go through them. We have the northern boundary of the site from Pendyford Lane. This is looking westwards across eastwards across the site. And then second photograph shows us further along that road back towards the village Bilbrook. And we can see the existing hedgerow along the site frontage on the left-hand side, and then on the right opposite side of the road we have the access which serves the allotments and recycling centre. This is the final view along the site's northern boundary, and this is looking back westwards. You can see the front of the 164 home Bloor Homes development, which is known as Bilbrook Mill. And there are 2 existing agricultural buildings within the site, which you sort of see in behind the small tree there. This photograph is taken from within the Bilbrook Mill site, looking eastwards across the southern edge of the site towards the application site, which is beyond the hedgerow line there. And there's the mast, which you can see in the distance there. Telecommunications mast, to clarify. Thanks. At the bottom corner photograph shows the view from within the application site near to the northern boundary, looking south along the western edge of the Bilbrook Mill development. This is standing near to the southern edge of the site, viewing the western edge of the Bilbrook Mill site again. And then we have a view northwards back towards Penderford Mill Lane. The established hedgerow, which is located centrally within the site, is on the right-hand side of that picture. Within the same position as the previous two photographs, this one's looking westward, back towards the across the application site, back into Bilbrook Mill. The hedgerow you can see on the left-hand side, that defines the southern boundary of the site. And then the bottom photograph is looking across that hedgerow, which runs through the centre of the site, captures a bit more of the site, the other side of the hedgerow, and then beyond that we have the industrial estate where Sun Valley Foods is located. Okay, these photographs we have internal views of the site near to the northern boundary with Penderford Mill Lane. So we've got the neighbouring farm, which is on the eastern edge, the western edge of the site, and then the two existing agricultural buildings that we saw earlier within the site. Here we have the application site, so it's obviously marked by the red line area there, which, as you can see, comprises several agricultural fields which have been predominantly subdivided into horse paddocks. Has a total area of 6.77 hectares and is located immediately adjacent to the edge of the village of Bilbrook. The application is submitted in outline. It proposes the erection of up to 115 dwellings. All matters are reserved except for vehicular access. A single point of vehicular access is from Penderford Mill Lane, from which a primary tree-lined route would run southwards through the site and up to the southern boundary. From this route, heading westwards, a number of secondary and tertiary routes would run, which would serve the various residential blocks, which are shown by the sort of browny colour there. Located to the periphery of the site, there are large areas of open space, which include to the northern boundary, pretty substantial urban drainage attenuation ponds. And then running through the middle of the site, we have, running from north to south, the retained hedgerow, adjacent to which a swale feature is proposed to run. And then along the southern edge, we have the more usable POS, which includes the local equipped area of play, a allotment area, and the retained telecommunications mast. As you can see, it sort of links into the neighbouring site's POS so that it sort of forms a continuous route along that boundary. In addition, there are 4 points of pedestrian access proposed, shown by the white arrows linking into Bilbrook Mill, so the two schemes have that interrelationship. So here we have the proposed vehicular access, which is a new Bree-Arm roundabout, which is to be formed with 2-lane flared entries and a new footway provision on the eastern and western sides of the site access road. In addition, the highway works include the introduction of a hatched no stopping area adjacent to the access road to the allotments and recycling centre, along with alterations to the junction design. This is in order to enable the introduction of the roundabout. The existing hedgerow to the northern boundary will have to be removed and either translocated or replaced with a new hedgerow. So as you can see, it bends quite far into the scheme. Whilst not for consideration as part of the scheme and subject to change, this plan is offered for members' information only. So we're not considering this tonight. So the scheme itself, you can see identified with the red area at the top of the site, forms phase 1 of a much larger scheme, which is obviously sought to be allocated through the emerging local plan. There are, however, certain elements and considerations within this proposal which have been shaped and impacted upon due to the design of the wider scheme. For instance, the roundabout design that we just looked at is over-designed if it were to just serve the 115 dwellings. but obviously it has been designed in order to serve the wider scheme, and that's why this is before you, so you can just have it for information today. That's all it's for, so sort of forget about it from now on. So turning to consideration of the scheme's impact, the matters arising have largely been dealt with within the officer's report, and obviously it's fairly lengthy, so I won't go touch upon all the matters here, but in broad terms we'll work through the key points now. So the council's current housing land supply position currently stands at 0.87 years. As per paragraph 11 of the NPPF, therefore, the housing policies within the development plan are no longer considered to be up to date. Therefore, housing policies within the NPPF have primacy, with the so-called tilted balance engaged for housing-led development. In such circumstances, permission must be granted unless any adverse impact of approving the proposal would significantly and demonstrably outweigh the benefits, having regard to the sustainability of the location, making effective use of land, securing well-designed places and providing affordable homes. Working through these points in turn, the location is considered sustainable given its proximity to Bilbrook, with evidence to demonstrate such included within both the adopted SAD document, where the site was removed from the Greenbelt and safeguarded for housing development, and the council's emergent local plan, given the site forms part of the future wider proposed allocation as previously discussed. In terms of effective use of land, the density, ecological, arboricultural, drainage, flood risk and highway impact of the development have all been considered to be acceptable. In terms of securing well-designed places, the master plan, design guide and specific architectural details submitted with this application have evolved through work with the applicant and the independent design consultants HIAS. The master plan is reflective of what is proposed within the emergent plan and is considered to secure the future delivery of high quality design. The applicant has agreed to a number of extensive and varied Section 106 contributions, which includes contributions as detailed within the officer's report towards healthcare, indoor and outdoor sports provision, community and building enhancements of Bilbrook Village Hall, towpath improvements, travel plan monitoring and education contributions. Finally, in terms of delivering affordable homes, the scheme will deliver 40% affordable along with 10% single-storey dwellings. Given, therefore, the ability of the scheme to comply with all facets of the tilted balance compliance paragraph, it follows that permission must be granted. As such, the recommendation is one of conditional approval subject to the signing of a Section 106 agreement. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike, for that comprehensive report. Members, we did have one speaker, Mrs. Harris, speaking against tonight. Unfortunately, it looks like she's not able to be with us, so Kelly's going to outline what Mrs. Harris had to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair. Can I just confirm before we start if the speaker has come online?
No.
Okay, I will be reading out the comments of Mrs. Harris, no relation to myself, Mrs. Victoria Harris, in verbatim that's part of the application instead of her being able to join us this evening. So, firstly, at the heart of the proposed site is a large mobile phone mast and communication station. It is presently 4G, but presumably this will upgrade to 5G in the near future. Countless studies have been done worldwide on health issues associated with living near one of these structures, and no safe guidance distance can be given with any certainty. Issues likely linked to living near one include, but are not limited to, cancer, headaches, blood disorders, declining cognitive performance, amongst other things. These independent studies can be found freely online. Secondly, the doctor's surgery in the local area are already oversubscribed for the population of Bilbrook, brackets, and Codsall, given that any new residents, potential new residents, will use facilities of both as the developer intends. In the 2021 census, the population of Bilbrook was 4,740 and Codsall 11,860. Russell House has only 6,549 spaces for patients, and Bilbrook Medical Centre has 7,709. This means total patient spaces are as 14,258, versus a population that will now be greater than 16,600. As you can see, this results in a deficit before any additional persons are added to the population brackets and won't include the existing Bilbrook Mill development, which was largely built after the 2021 census. Even if the developer plans further healthcare facilities, this won't likely happen for decades and isn't included in this phase. So the strain on the local NHS will be potentially catastrophic. It would also be hard to recruit new GPs and healthcare professionals, as so many are leaving the profession anyway. The same goes for the local dentists. None of the local dentists are accepting NHS patients. With regard to the affordable housing on the site, whether it be shared ownership or rented, it appears that not many of the people in the houses come directly from Bilbrook or Codsall. This means there cannot be a great need for houses in this particular location for residents of these villages looking to buy or for social rent. Any further development could and should take place in other parts of the county with the infrastructure to support it. The villages themselves are already difficult to access and park at, especially shops. No further parking has been suggested, so an additional population will only place unnecessary strain on an already oversubscribed area for parking. I cannot think of any positives that another phase of this estate will add to the area. It will destroy more greenbelt, put people at risk living near a mobile phone mast, and put a dangerous strain on local services that are already at or past capacity without any improvements being suggested, created for at least a decade. People moved to this estate expecting a school would be built for their children, but this has not materialised either. And those are the words of Miss Victoria Harris.
Thank you, Kelly. Therefore, we move on to the applicant agent, which is Neil Cox. I see you already there. You've got 5 minutes speaking for the application. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Evening, members. The proposed development located in the main service village of Bilbrook is for up to 115 homes, 40% of which will be provided as affordable. Access to the proposed development will be taken via a new roundabout on Pendiford Mill Lane. The new homes would be set amongst extensive landscaped public open spaces, with nearly half of the overall site area retained as green and blue infrastructure. The proposals before committee are the result of extensive consultative work with technical consultees, local councillors and the community on both this and the wider East of Bilbrook local plan allocation, which this application will help to facilitate. As a result of this consultative process, the proposed development now comes before committee with no objections from technical consultees, including planning policy, urban design, environmental health, who raised no issues in respect of the phone mast, highways, flood risk and drainage, ecology, arboriculture, education and healthcare. Bloor Homes is committed to ongoing engagement as the proposals move forward to reserve matters, alongside all other phases of the East of Bilbrook development. The proposal would deliver a sustainable landscape-led development of high-quality homes and extensive public open spaces east of Bilbrook. Progressing this next phase of the wider East of Bilbrook development will deliver on the vision set out in the proposed allocation contained within the emerging local plan currently at examination. The application does not in any way prejudice the agreed approach and design of the wider allocation and will assist in facilitating delivery in line with the wider master plan approved by this council last month. The proposals will deliver much needed market and affordable homes to address the council's increased housing needs and current lack of 5-year housing land supply, delivering residential development at an early stage in the local plan period. A local connection requirement will also be secured through legal agreement to give preference to those in need of affordable homes locally. Other benefits include homes built to net zero carbon, including solar panels and air source heat pumps. Each home will also be fitted with electric vehicle charge point, provision of extensive public open space representing an over provision compared to both existing and emerging council standards, open spaces to include a network of walking and cycling routes, play areas, community orchard and areas of biodiversity enhancement, additional landscaping planting to significantly increase tree cover across the site, contributing to biodiversity net gain, and Section 106 financial contributions totaling in excess of £1.5 million to support local infrastructure. including 1.19 million towards education provision, including a good proportion towards the delivery of a new first school for Bilbrook within the wider allocation. Over 103,000 to support local healthcare services, over £103,000 to invest in community building enhancements to the village hall, 55,000 towards swimming pool enhancements at Codsall Leisure Centre, over 46,000 towards indoor sports provision at Bilbrook Village Hall, and over 21,000 towards artificial sports pitch improvements. It is hoped that members of the Planning Committee will agree with their officer's recommendation and the vision set out in the submitted South Staffordshire local plan, and resolve to grant planning permission for phase 2 Law Homes development east of Bilbrook, subject to the identified conditions and section 106 obligations. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Cox. Right, members, it's over to yourselves to debate. Before I do that, I'll go to the local member, which is Councillor Burnett. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll listen to the debate and reserve my right to speak. Thank
Okay, members who wishes to speak on this issue? Anybody? Any member? Councillor Kelly.
Thank you, Chair. Just a quick point on the officer's report. Let me just get to it a second. It does say on page 36, flood risk and drainage. Well, Grant has already mentioned that everything's already sorted, but just say Bilbrook has experienced increase in flooding, such as the weekend of the 1st of September 24. And the proposed development will further reduce drainage capacity, and application does not adequately address surface water runoff. There's that point first, and the second one is on our core strategy, where policy EQ7 water quality clearly states that depending on Codsall, Penkridge and Womben's water treatment works, there is a capacity restriction. Those 2 points need to be addressed. Thank you.
Mike.
For you, Chair. I'll deal with the second point first, if I may. We've been here before with Penkridge. Yes, we've tried to progress with Severn Trent Water to get them to detail what the concerns are. Obviously, in general terms, they pointed out that the nearby system is at capacity, and this scheme could potentially take it beyond that capacity. But in order to justify a Grampian style condition, which basically requires, before anyone occupies a house, the upgrades to the foul drainage needs to be undertaken. In order to justify that, they need to show us that the condition is reasonable. And to do that, they need to show that they're going to be doing the upgrades, when they'll be delivered in a reasonable time frame, and that there's definite evidence that they're already over, that there is the harm there already. We've asked them this several times to provide that information. They're still yet to provide it, either for this site or for the Penkridge site. Because of that, it's not reasonable for us as the local planning authority to apply a condition. So they've then, because of that, come back and said, okay, then we'll just have the standard drainage condition, which is what we've got on the application now. And that's where we're at. It's not a particularly wholesome story, but it's where we're at with them. So we have sought to address the issue, but Severn Trent aren't helping us at the moment, unfortunately. Returning to the matter of surface water flood risk, the site will make the situation better, basically. As you can see, there's 3 surface water drainage ponds on that scheme alone. There's further provision elsewhere within the scheme. The ability to hold surface water will be greatly increased through this scheme compared to its existing greenfield provision. Perhaps.
Do you want to come back?
Thank you. Is the surface runoff going into, which I understand is going into retention ponds, but is that going then into the canal?
Through you, Chair. Short answer, yes. Long answer, technically the applicant needs to get agreement from the Canal and Rivers Trust before that can be safe for certainty. But given they're always short of water in order to feed the canals, then the longer answer is yes, still.
Okay, it's a assumption that they might give it. You're not guaranteeing it that they might. You just assumption that Canal and River Trust might.
Through you, Chair. Their consultation response basically says we will, but you need to get a formal agreement first.
So we haven't got a formal agreement.
It's a legal agreement between the two parties, so it's not really a planning matter. It's a sort of, yeah, it is what it is. It's a legal agreement between the two.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Any more speakers? Councillor Ashley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think one thing that we very often puzzled, I believe, about these very large schemes. Tonight we're considering plan application for 115 dwellings improved. But looking through the document, the ultimate objective would appear to be to construct some 1,000 properties in and around this particular location. I think it's already been pointed out by the speaker earlier, the question of the infrastructure for what could provide or will be needed for such a large number of houses in the longer term. Can anyone give us an idea of a long-term plan? How long it would be in the future with regards to achieving the objective of 1,000 dwellings? I know very well it's about market conditions, what people can afford, how the economy grows and so on. But I think, you know, we ought to be aware of what sort of long-term objectives there is, providing all these houses, particularly in one relative location. Although, of course, the same principle applies to the Penkridge, north of Penkridge schemes. So, can anyone give us any ideas how, subject to good weather and good economy, I suppose, these long-term schemes of large settlements added to existing ones, what period of time will that take?
Over to you, Mike.
Through you, Chair. I'll bring this plan back up because it's helpful here. In terms of this specific scheme, so we have, again, bear in mind this isn't set in any way, it's purely here for information, but we have the purple square there, which is the school. So that's the first school which was touched upon earlier. Now that is within phase 2 of the scheme, or phase 3 if you include the existing Bloor scheme as phase 1. So it's coming in after this proposal. And that's because the Education Authority required that the land for the school be provided to them prior to the occupation of the 200th dwelling within Bilbrook as developments come through. So that kind of needs to be the next one that comes online in order to satisfy the Education Authority. And then that would then have to be delivered in terms of the scheme itself. This isn't on the developer because it then gets passed to the Education Authority prior to the 400th dwelling. So that's your first piece of infrastructure. Now, in terms of wider elements, we have the blue blob, which is the local centre within the scheme, and then yellow blob, which is the later living. And then obviously there's additional infrastructure in terms of active travel infrastructure and various parcels of open space and so on and so forth. Now, in terms of off-site contributions, because obviously if you look at the wider scheme, there's no sports provision, for instance, on this site. Rather, because there's so much within the surrounding area, they are looking to provide contributions towards enhancements. So within this scheme, we have a contribution towards improvements of the sports pitches to the north of the site, and the village hall, because again, we're not providing one on site because there's one so nearby. So rather than provide it here, it's enhancements of the existing Billbrook Village Hall. And then moving beyond that, we have a contribution towards healthcare and so on and so forth. So it will all be secured. This is just merely phase one. Admittedly, the goodies of the infrastructure aren't within this scheme, but it sets it up ready to deliver such within the wider development. Obviously, in the round as well, we also have the emerging local plan, which will also secure these infrastructure requirements as that progresses and gains additional weight. Hopefully that helps.
You happy with that, or do you want to come back?
Any idea on dates? The point I'm trying to making, are we talking 2035, 2040? I mean, I know it's a bit of guessyology. Perhaps we're as good as doing it as perhaps these so-called experts are. But you know, people who live there would like to know whether, for example, Billbrook's going to be a building site for the next 15 years. Now, and I'm aware of the factors that go into the whole question of developing new housing estates. But is there any ideas of dates and timing?
Kelly?
Thank you through your chair. I don't have the dates to hand, but it is in the local plan evidence base because obviously we have to have a trajectory of housing. This is a long-term site. There's no two ways about it. Our local plan covers a period up to 2041, so it has to be over that period. From memory, it will be completed in the lifetime of that local plan. But yes, it does come forward at sort of say 70, 80 homes a year, and that's the sort of trajectory of build out. What I would say is we need to remember we're here to consider the application that's before us on its merit, so the smaller scheme. But also when it comes to schemes of a size like this, it isn't like the whole thing is a building site. It's done in phases so that those that then move in are in a new neighbourhood, so that the development happens elsewhere. And members will be aware of that from when we talked about sites at scale previously, of how construction is managed for those existing residents of Billbrook as well as the new residents as they move on to this site. But yes, it is a long-term site. It will take a number of years to build out, but it will be done through the local plan period that we're proposing this site in the local plan.
You happy with that? Yes. Any more speakers? Councillor Kelly.
Just one point, that is for the highways, gentlemen. Barnhurst Lane, that road is renowned for flooding, for grant and for the highways. Is there any mitigations going to be put into there from the developer regarding this? Because that road, as we know today, has got more potholes and it's been bombed like anything.
Thank you. In terms of overall maintenance, the answer is no onto Barnhurst Road. That the responsibility of maintaining the highway sits with us as the county. The only time we can claim money back for that is if there's been excessive loading onto it. And most of the construction traffic shouldn't be going up and down Barnhurst Road, so it's unlikely that the developer will be on the hook for that. There is some developments later on, as I know we keep saying we're only looking at this one now, but as the rest of the development comes on about Barnhurst Road, the junction does have some improvements on it, but in terms of the maintenance, no, that's a county council function.
Okay.
So there's no section 278 because there's going to be a new island built on Penfield Mill Lane. Traffic will go all different other routes to avoid that traffic, putting load on other roads.
You're right. There will be a 278 for the roundabout. Obviously, we haven't seen a construction yet, and obviously we'll try and endeavour, because the roundabout's coming off site. It should be easier to construct it off site and allow the road to stay. There will be inevitable roadworks and times there were tie-ins. It's like everything else. You just we try and plan those works to make sure that the disruption is kept to a minimum. Obviously, we can't. There's going to be a period of time where it will be, In terms of people running elsewhere, it just depends how long it's going to take and what you benefit from it. I can't really say you're going down Barnhurst, if I'm being perfectly honest, to avoid it. Probably a bit too far out the way, but if we can, because the roundabouts, if you look on the design there, you can see the roundabout sitting south of the existing. So in theory, to build it, we should be able to build most of the bottom part of that roundabout offline. And then once we're ready for the tie-ins, there will be inevitable sort of roadworks and that, but the majority of that should be able to be built offline, which should keep the traffic going.
Okay. Any more speakers? No, I'll go back to Councillor Burnett to wind up, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to Councillor Kelly for asking 2 of my questions, which I've now wiped off. I'll do some general comments first, and then I'll go to specifics. The reason that Bilbrook is getting these houses is because we're listed as a Tier 1 status village. We have a rail station, yes, but we have no car park for the rail station. Therefore, people come in from all other villages, park their cars in Bilbrook, and then they use the rail station to go to work, and then they come back late at night to pick up their cars. There will be an increase in traffic overall. I know that that's happening everywhere, but unfortunately it will happen with this. Also, we'll be looking at a huge increase in Bilbrook's population. There's no doubt about it. This development, which is right at the far end of Bilbrook, will have a massive impact on the village itself. It will lose its distinctiveness. It will lose its character. It will put more cars on the road. And as Councillor Kelly alluded to, the water and other things I'm really concerned about. Coming to specifics, the building of the houses will reduce the strategic gap between South Staffordshire Local Authority and Wolverhampton City Council. The strategic gap will be the width of Barnhurst Lane before it hits Wolverhampton. Something that I never thought that I would see. The island that's proposed by the recycling centre, the road that actually goes to the recycling centre, I've seen listed on here as not a busy road. Since the recycling tip at recycling depot at Womben has been closed, there has been a massive increase in people coming over to Bilbrook to dump their refuse. So I can't take that point. Councillor Kelly mentioned Barnhurst Lane. 2 years ago, Councillor Hopkins and I walked the length of Barnhurst Lane from the junction on Pendiford Mill Lane to the end on the border with Wolverhampton. We counted 106 potholes of various sizes, from medium to massive. The county councillor in charge of roads actually met us there, and the highway was resurfaced. However, we were told that it's reached the end of its useful life. If you have more cars coming off a new estate, it's going to break up even more. This is running the side of the estate. How that can't be done as part of a section 278, I really don't know, because that is an integral road running from Bilbrook to Pendiford to Aldersley to Wolverhampton. It's in a treacherous state, as anybody that lives locally knows. Okay. I am concerned that the houses, 115 houses, which are a gateway for approximately 630 more houses to come, as I say, will completely destroy the character of the village. I'll make another point on that in a moment as well. Notwithstanding the fact that we have got such a short land supply, I totally understand that, and that we are in a tilted balance. I find that I cannot vote for this application because it'll have such a destructive effect on Bilbrook itself. Yes, I know it's on an allocated piece of land, But as I say, this is just this is the gateway to a much larger estate. We've already got 167 houses that Bloor built on the first phase. Then we've got these 115 if it goes through tonight, and then we've got up to 635 more needed. Cumulatively, I can't see that I could ever vote for this application. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Baird. Are there any more comments after that? Councillor Steele.
Thank you, Chairman. Density. It says that the density will be 37.5 dwellings per hectare. I actually thought in our core strategy we were looking at 35 dwellings per hectare. And when you look at the map, three large areas of the open space are taken up with attenuation lakes. So there's not going to be a lot of open space between the dwellings. For me, that's quite an anomaly. I am right. The elongated one is it within the red line, isn't it? Yeah. So I haven't finished, but
let Mike make a comment on that. Mike.
Yes, but that doesn't count towards the POS provision as you state. Anything that's Suds Pond, that doesn't count. What does count is the bits along the southern edge and through the middle there.
Back to you, Councillor Steele.
we'll take that. So it's not within the total hectares of the site. Is that what you're saying? Because it either is or it isn't.
It is part of the application site. What I'm trying to say, I'll be clearer this time. When we look and assess the amount of public open space that's required within the development, anything that's detailed as surface, water drainage, etc., doesn't count towards your public open space provision because it's not usable public open space because it's generally full of water. So it's not counted within calculation. So when we have calculated how much is required against the local plan policy for this scheme, we don't include those free sud ponds. We include the usable open space, i.e. The bits which are mainly grass or biodiversity or have the leap in this case or the orchard. That's where we've counted them all up to make sure that the development's policy compliant or not.
Thank you for that. Well, I'm not convinced, but anyway, I'll move on to my second point. 91% of the land is either grade 2 or 3A, good quality or best quality land. 91% of the whole site. If we continue with these developments across South Staffs at that rate, there won't be that much BMV land left. That's just a point that I'm making. Phone mast, yeah, I'm not convinced people are going to want to live too close to it. But on the larger master plan, there appeared to be 2 starred items, because obviously they're not both phone masts, are they, by any chance?
Give us a moment. Back to Mike.
Chair, the stars are play parks. So we've got the play park, which is within the scheme, which is the white star, and then we've got the yellow star, which is off-site within the wider allocation.
I've obviously misunderstood. So where actually is the phone mast? Can someone tell me, please? As we haven't had a site visit.
Right. It is. That's coming up on the screen. Yeah. It's just there next to the hedgerow.
Okay. I've got concerned about the drainage, stormwater and foul. I didn't like the explanations for that. I've got a note about Barnhurst Lane. I'm going to probably show my age now, but I drove down there last week. It's got more potholes on it than the runway at Port Stanley in the Falklands after the British Air Force had bombed it. Sorry, that's it really. Observations.
Okay, I'm going to move to the vote now. Councillor Burnett, come back, yeah.
Sorry.
For refusal of this planning application using policy EQ9, thank you.
That you're just quoting EQ9. Can you give us more detail, please? Thanks.
And also core policy 3. H, protecting and enhancing the character, local distinctiveness and setting of villages. And bear with me on the other one. Policy EQ9. Development likely to generate harmful noise levels will be directed to appropriate locations away from known noise sensitive locations and noise sensitive habitats. All development proposals should take into account the amenity of any nearby residents, particularly with regard to privacy, security, noise, disturbance, pollution, odours and daylight. Thank you.
Officers.
EQ9, what was the other policy?
What was the other
Core
policy?
policy 3.
Core policy 3, yeah. And that was distinctiveness, wasn't it?
Yeah, core policy 3, H.
Distinctive, yeah. Give us a moment while officers look at the policies, thank you. Over to Kelly.
Through you, Chair. Core policy 3 is sustainable development and climate change. Can you just sort of direct which part of that policy, because that wasn't, as I can see it, relevant with the words that you've just sort of said is what you're articulating. So is there a specific part of core policy 3 that you'd like us to consider?
Core policy 3, H, protecting and enhancing the character, local distinctiveness and setting of villages.
Pardeep.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, just to make it clear to members, we've had a look at policy EQ9, and that refers to noise levels. Now, in dealing with the reason for refusal regarding noise, members need to have technical information before them that actually states that noise harm is actually going to arise from this development. You have seen Mike's report. There's a detailed report in there which makes no reference at all to any noise issues, and therefore there is concern from an officer perspective that any refusal on noise grounds would not actually be sustainable. So that's the point in relation to EQ9. Now, in relation to EQ3, we note the point that you've actually made, Councillor Burnett, in relation to the distinctiveness of the village. That point is actually appreciated. However, we have to look at this in the balance. What you have is a site which is actually allocated in the existing plan and part of a larger site in the proposed plan, and therefore, again, the issue of trying to defend a reason for refusal on the distinctiveness element and the character of the village is also not, in my view, going to be sustainable.
I think what we've got here, members, you need to consider how strong these reasons are. It is a proposal and we will vote on it because the proposal has been put, but you need to weigh that in your judgment, members. Do any more of the officers want to make a comment? No. Councillor Kelly.
Just a point of order, please, Chair. EQ 9, protecting residential amenity. It goes on to say development proposals should take into account the amenity of nearby residents, particularly with regards to privacy, security, noise and disturbance, pollution, including light pollution, odours and daylight. Noise.
I was actually focusing on the reason that had actually been put forward. In terms of the policy in full, yes, there are other elements to it, but Chair, from my perspective, it was the noise element. In relation to the other elements that you've mentioned, one, it's an outline planning application, and I think, you know, we do need to remind members it is an outline application, and two, what you have actually got before you is a report which has got a significant number of robust planning conditions which deal with the drainage element, the surface water element, you know, which will all have to be adhered to and are also subject to the submission of further information. Thank you.
Just to come back, Chair, I'll just clarifying the point, that's all.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Members would have taken that into consideration. We have a proposal. Before I put the proposal, can you outline it distinctly, exactly with the two policies, so we know what we're talking about? Thank you.
Core policy 3H quite clearly says protecting and enhancing the character, local distinctiveness and setting of villages.
And that's EQ3.
That is, yes, core policy 3. And policy EQ 9, which has just been reiterated by our councillor friend over there.
Okay, members, I'm going to the vote.
Got a seconder, Chair.
Sorry, yes. Can I have a seconder for that? My mistake. Seconder? Councillor Kelly. Okay, Councillor Kelly's seconded it. So we go to the vote. Now, all those in favour of refusal, please show.
Two.
Okay. All those in favour of approval, please show.
No, Chair. The
Substantive.
motion to refuse has actually been lost, and we
Yeah.
now have to actually go to the substantive motion.
Substantive motion, yeah.
Okay, which is for approval of the application. Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
We haven't actually put our hands up to vote for refusal. I mean, we could all abstain in theory, and then
Yeah.
the refusal
Fair
would be
comment,
carried
yeah.
2-0.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
No,
Okay,
yeah.
that's fair.
So all those in favour of abstention, please show on that one. So we've got 2 for refusal, 1 abstention. Now I go to the substantive vote because that is defeated, as Pardeep has pointed out. So the substantive vote, the recommendation is for approval. All those in favour of approval, please show.
6, 7, 8.
Okay. All those against approval, please show. 2.
1, 2,
And abstentions, please.
1, 2.
So that application is approved, and just for the general public, it's 8 votes for, 2 to refuse and 2 abstentions. The application is approved.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask for my vote to be recorded, please?
Yes, you can. Councillor Davis, Sutton, sorry.
Chair, having just gone through the vote, obviously that this is now completed. One of the things that concerns me about the Case Officer Brown's comments in relation to Severn Trent, this is not the first major that we've had problems with Severn Trent, and it's all very well, and I appreciate the case officers' hands are tied because Severn Trent won't engage, but I do feel that the amount of applications that are coming through, we need to have, say, a more robust approach with Severn Trent, not just the conditions, because we've all got problems with all three types of water: foul, surface water and freshwater provision. And I think something from the chair of this planning committee to somebody who's actually got the right or role to take on the responsibility to say to the planning committee, we will not just adhere to the conditions, but we will actually do something. We've been told about this particular application that we've just discussed and debated. It's the provision of the water, I think it was the foul water, it's up to capacity. We're now talking of another 115 houses, plus 163 that have already been done, a potential for another, did you say 639? At what point do we stop saying to Severn Trent, we cannot approve these planning applications until you give us a far more concrete provision? And I feel I wish to make a proposal, Chair, that you write to Severn Trent and say, we need that. We're being put in a position of approving applications that we know our residents will end up with issues with drainage. We've seen it at Penkridge with Bloor Homes. We've seen it with some of our new allocations and estates. Can I plead and ask as a request for you to write to Severn Trent to get something more concrete than what Case Officer Brown has actually had? So
My comment to that is you need officers to respond because they deal with Severn Trent. So let's have a conversation with the officers before I start writing any letters to anyone. Kelly.
Just through you, Chair, just update. I absolutely understand where you're coming from. The frustration here is palpable because we are trying our very best to engage them in the process. The challenge is that Severn Trent Water, foul drainage, they have a legal duty to actually accommodate new development. So it's a case of trying to understand their business plan and what they're doing. But you have incidents where the same person gives you conflicting comments from two different applications, and it's very frustrating. And we have been very, very firm that it's unacceptable, the position, and we find that they're still commenting on applications that have been determined a while ago, and it's quite strange. We're really pushing for a meeting to actually get them into a room and talk about what needs to happen, because they do have a duty to accommodate new development. So that's the challenge. Rest assured, there will come a point where if our efforts to engage them fail, that there will need to be a political response to Severn Trent, and we will obviously let the chair and the cabinet member for planning know that we are at that point now and ask them to engage on our behalf. But we would like to try and explore more officer routes at the moment. But rest assured, we are alive to this issue that needs to be resolved.
Yes, you can.
from my perspective, that's great, fantastic. But every single one of these councillors represented here today and other councillors have been out in the last 3 weeks, myself included, trying to get sandbags, trying to sort out surface water drainage issues, trying to sort out foul not coming back into new properties. At what point do we say we sit on a planning committee, we approve something where Severn Trent are doing nothing? And that is what we're reflecting. We're on the front face here. And so, but thank you, Kelly, and thank you, Chair.
No, I hear what you say. So what we will do, myself and the Vice Chairman, we'll have another meeting with officers, discuss this issue, work out what sort of response. I'll come back to you as members, but you've got to give us the opportunity to talk to the officers, myself and the Vice Chairman, but I'll give you that pledge. Okay, thank you. Councillor Steele.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Are they not a statutory consultee? or not?
Can I just say, let's carry on with the procedures. I do intend, members, thinking this would probably be a short meeting, to have a question and answer session with your members after the meeting. Else, otherwise, we're not going to get on with the regular business. So let's move on, attend to the next application, and we'll come back to this issue when I talk to members at the end on a question and answer session. Okay, everybody happy with that? Okay. So we proceed then with the proceedings. We're on to the second application. I'll let time for the people who want to leave the room. You're staying, okay. Right, second application is 25/00802/VAR, and that's for a proposed solar farm, Lawn Lane, Colvin. I think this is an amendment to a previous application, but I'll hand over to Tom to outline it. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Proposal is for a variation of conditions on a previously approved solar farm at Lawn Lane, Coven. The site covers approximately 58 hectares of agricultural land located south of Coven and north of the M54. Planning permission for a 48 megawatt solar farm was granted in August 2024, and minor amendments to the access and layout were approved at Planning Committee in February 2025. This application seeks approval for further changes to the approved layout. These include, if we go to the first slide, it's here. Thank you. As we can see, that's an aerial photo showing the site and the layout of the solar panels. If we go to the next slide. Thank you. And sorry, next slide, not quite in order. Thanks. So this application seeks approval for further changes, including the relocation of the substation from the northeast parcel to the southeastern parcel, introduction of additional internal access tracks and minor changes to access points, MV substations, which are shown in the centre of that drawing. These would be 2.9 metres in height and 6 metres in length and 2.4 metres in width. There'd be approximately one of these in each field. Minor adjustments have also been made to the layout of the solar panels, although they would be within the same extent as originally approved. Details of site security have been provided, including the installation of 80 thermal imaging CCTV cameras. The previous slide showed an elevation of those. Thank you. And those are on poles 3 metres high and 15 centimetres in width. And these would be positioned approximately between 100 and 200 metres apart within the site. If we go back to the overall site plan. Thanks. The principle of development has already been established through the original permission. The proposed amendments have been assessed against the core strategy and the National Planning Policy Framework. Highways officers and National Highways have raised no objections. The changes are considered minor in design terms and will not result in additional harm to the character or appearance of the landscape above the previous approval. There are no heritage implications, and the relocation of the substation away from the bridle path is regarded as a minor improvement for users of that route. In terms of residential amenity, the internal access road near neighbouring properties will only be used for occasional maintenance visits. Environmental Health has confirmed that there are no concerns regarding noise. The CCTV proposals are supported by the Police Design Officer. Ecology and arboricultural matters have been reviewed and no objections have been raised. The lead local flood authority has confirmed that the drainage strategy is acceptable and the sustainable drainage measures are included. One objection has been received from the British Horse Society regarding the continued use of a public bridleway for site access during construction and concerns about surfacing. This objection was received during the original application, and as previously, an informative is recommended to ensure rights of way are protected and reinstated if affected. In conclusion, the proposed amendments do not alter the original conclusion. The wider benefits of the development are considered to significantly and demonstrably outweigh the adverse impacts of the proposal on the green belt, and very special circumstances are therefore considered to exist. The proposal is considered to comply with the overarching aims of the development plan and the NPPF, and approval is recommended subject to conditions, including those previously imposed and updated plans. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. We don't have speakers speaking for and against, so it's over to you members, but firstly to the local members, which is Councillor Sutton and Councillor Holmes. Do any of you wish to speak?
Thank you, Chairman. In view of the fact that these are mainly minor alterations and most of the major consultees seem to approve of them, I don't see any objection myself. Thank you.
Do you wish to speak, Councillor Sutton?
I have to reflect Councillor Holmes's comments and I reserve my right to speak.
Thank you. Anybody else, members, wish to speak on this application? No. So we go straight to the vote then. Sorry. No. 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 Okay. It's okay. We go straight to the vote then. The recommendation is for approval. All those in favour of approval, please show. That's unanimous. Oh, Councillor Adams, yeah.
Okay, that's unanimous.
Whoops. That's unanimous. Thank you very much, members. That application is approved. Don't think we've got anything more further from officers. As I said earlier on, I'm closing this meeting now, but can members please remain behind?